has rejected a petition to throw out more than 127,000 votes that were cast at drive-thru locations in Harris County in Houston. The petition was filed by 2 Republicans and a state representative. They were seeking to invalidate nearly 127,000 drive-thru votes. The lawsuit contends that the drive-thru voting sites in Houston are operating illegally and are arranged in locations that favor Democrats. This is the second time in recent weeks that the all-Republican Supreme Court in Texas has blocked attempts to dismantle drive-thru voting there. However, the court did not issue an opinion with the ruling. Conservative activists have rallied against expanded voting access in Harris County. Specifically, over 1.4 million early votes have already been cast as per the latest coming in. Harris County is a crucial battleground in Texas, of course, where Trump and the Republicans are bracing for the closest election in decades. Harris County has set up 10 drive-thru voting locations for early voting. These 10 locations were connected to traditional polling locations. As of the 30th of October, nearly 127,000 votes had been cast at those drive-thru sites, marking roughly 10% of the votes cast in person during the early voting period.
And things of that nature. People are suffering.
A lot of issues that we have been focusing on in the run-up to the big election day in America. Joining us right this minute is former Indian ambassador to the United Nations, Saeed Akbaruddin, for more on that. Thanks very much, sir, for speaking with us. How should India view the election results? How would a Trump-Modi equation compare to a Biden-Modi equation, according to you? And what should India's expectations be from the next president of the United States?
The United States, every leap year, chooses a president. And every one of us globally look for 2 events during a leap year. One is the Olympics, the other is the US presidential election. Unfortunately, the pandemic this year disrupted the Olympics. So the only big event that the globe is focusing on this year is the US presidential election. India, too, is interested because, like every other country, what the US president does for good or for not so good impacts on all of us. As far as we are concerned, the trajectory of India's relations with the US has been secular, in the sense there has been an ongoing improvement. We've had Democrat presidents, we've had Republican presidents, and prior to that, Democrat presidents again. From 2000, the Indian imprint on the US and the US imprint on India has only enhanced, despite the different parties who've come to power in the US. So from a perspective of India, we shouldn't be very worried about the outcome of who would be the next US president, because there's a secular improvement in our ties. Yes, if there is a change in administration, it does happen that new people assume office. It takes time for them to settle down. And these are mere blips on what is a trajectory of improvement in our ties. Those ties, if President Trump gets re-elected, are fairly set in their framework. We have improved our political engagement. We've improved our defense ties. We've enhanced our global coordination. But if there is a change in administration, there will be other aspects too that will be emphasized on. For example, perhaps climate change. Also, greater cooperation in multilateral fora. So we just have to see who comes out of this titanic battle that is being contested in the US electoral framework, and await the outcome as good friends and as understanding of the fact that US is a very, very mature democracy. It has its inadequacies, but it comes through difficult situations. So that's where we are, hoping for the best.
Indeed. I'm also eager to get in your assessment of the way the two campaigns have panned out and the key issues, according to you, that would be top of the mind when it comes to the voters.
So you can view the US election through different parameters. As they say, where you stand will determine what you see. So one way of looking at the US election is that it's a sort of a referendum on President Trump's 4 years. Everything else pales in comparison to that choice of a candidate. That's one way of looking at it, because President Trump's outsized personality, his impact on the US administration in many, many ways that has been different from previous presidents. At another level, you can certainly look at the diversity in their platforms. They represent two different visions of the US. The differences are on every aspect, whether it is on handling the pandemic, whether it is on economics or on the economy in general, how to handle the economy, in taxation, on energy, on climate change, on domestic issues such as social inequality, racism, immigration. So on each of these, there is a diverse approach that is being projected. You can choose your pick and decide which of these candidates are more attractive on either a platform approach or on an individual approach.
When it comes to the COVID-19 crisis and the Trump administration's handling of the same, we were just playing out a report which talks about Trump's latest comments, talking about firing the top infectious disease expert. This is a time when global headlines have been dominated by the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of eyes on the way America, which is the worst hit country in the world, has handled the crisis. Would that also be one of the primary factors when it comes to deciding which way this election goes?
Sure. I think the how to handle the pandemic is perhaps the most important factor if you look at issues. There are different approaches. On the one hand, Republicans, as exemplified by President Trump, want to open up the economy even while tackling the pandemic. On the other hand, Vice President Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris are of the view that they would follow the science. These are two different approaches, two different perspectives, and they will certainly play in perhaps as the most important aspect in choice of candidates.
Sayyid Akbaruddin, thanks very much, sir, indeed, for sharing those perspectives and your time here with us.